From the News Channel 5 Network, this is Inside Politics.
Hello, everyone. I'm News Channel 5's political analyst, Pat Nolan. Welcome to Inside Politics. This week, we continue our conversations with those who want to be Nashville's mayor. We are featuring all four major mayoral candidates so the voters can see and hear from them one more time before early voting begins on July 12th and before Election Day itself on August 1st. All these interviews are airing on News Channel 5's main channel in the prime time on Friday evenings over the next several weeks, as well as on News Channel 5 Plus each weekend. This week, our guest on Inside Politics is State Representative John Ray Clemmons. Representative Clemmons, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Let's begin our conversation with the same question I asked you when you were on Inside Politics back in January this year, when you just entered the race. Why are you running for mayor?
Because Nashville's families are seeing a lot of challenges, and right now our city's at a crossroads. We're either going to continue down this path of the status quo, which I find unacceptable, or we're going to choose the path of progress. I've been working on the biggest challenges facing Nashville families, the working families across this entire city, in all these communities in the state legislature for years, and now it's time to have a mayor who's willing to step up, make the tough decisions necessary to move our city forward and really substantively address the issues.
You've run in a district before within Davidson County in the state legislature. Now you're running countywide. In the 7 months you've been out on the campaign trail, what have you learned about Nashville and about the people and its challenges that maybe you didn't fully appreciate when you first got in the race?
Well, it's a large city, as you know. Unfortunately, I've been all over this county for a long time, but getting back out and revisiting some of these areas has been fantastic. We built our entire campaign around these kitchen table talks. So I go into neighborhoods all over the entire city, sit down with families at their kitchen table and talk about the issues that matter to them, that are affecting their daily life. And that's how we built our campaign platform. And what I hear across the city, across the entire county, regardless of where you are, the same issues come up. It's just a different perspective.
Let's talk specifically about why you should be mayor as opposed to your opponents. Why should voters choose you over Carol Swain?
Because I've got a proven commitment to standing up and fighting for what's right. Carol is more in line with Trump policies, and I think she doesn't adequately reflect the values that we hold dear here in Nashville. And I don't think we need to head down that road of reflecting what's going on in Washington, D.C.
Why would you be a better mayor than John Cooper?
Well, John is saying a lot of the same things I'm saying, but John's a developer. And I think right now the last thing we need in the mayor's office is a developer. And I think John has been...
You sound like Mayor Briley.
Well, the truth hurts sometimes. So, when John has been in the Metro Council for the last 4 years, you hear John complaining about a lot of things going on in Metro government. You hear him complain about decisions that have been made over the last 4 years. Well, John was the budget chairman for 2 years. He's been in the Metro Council for 4 years as an at-large member. He could have started these discussions. He could have stepped up and addressed and tried to make change on a lot of these things, and he just failed to do so.
Why should the voters support you and not re-elect Mayor Briley?
Well, Mayor Briley has proven that he's been a decent caretaker of the city. But it's time to elect a mayor. The mayor, Briley, has repeatedly refused to lead the city. He's kicked the can down the road. He's had 2 budgets now where he has refused to step up and do what is necessary to improve people's quality of life.
You've been very critical of all your opponents about not supporting a tax increase this year, a property tax increase that the council turned down. It's unusual for any candidate to support a tax increase in an election year. So why are you doing that?
Well, I said that the Bertram-Mendez budget was the right option at that time, where we find ourselves after years of fiscal mismanagement under the watch of Briley and Cooper. The best option at that given moment was the Bertram-Mendez budget, because we fail to fully fund our public schools. We fail to address affordable housing in a substantive way. We haven't made investments in water infrastructure and transportation infrastructure. So we're sitting there on the night of that budget, and there are 2 options on the table. One kicks the can and deprives working families of a better quality of life, or you can choose to step up, make the tough decision necessary, and address these challenges.
But with the extra money that the mayor found after that, he wound up actually giving teachers a larger raise than they would have under the tax increase. Why should people have put their necks on the line politically and proved a tax increase when the mayor found money on his own that gives them a larger pay raise this year than they were going to get under a tax increase.
Well, that's an interesting situation. You know, if the mayor had this idea about where he was going to find this money and pull it out of a hat with a rabbit, you know, he could have told these council members that he had this plan where he was going to pull money from MDHA and make this backroom deal. Probably would have saved a lot of those council members a lot of votes. But again, it's non-recurring revenue. This is one-time money he's pulling from MDHA. It's ultimately going to cost taxpayers more. He's just kicking the can down the road, finding this money, and it's not a bigger raise. He's giving teachers a 3% raise for half a year, and then he's saying, you re-elect me and you'll get another 1.5% in January. That's a quid pro quo. That is not leadership. The decisions that must be made right now from the mayor's office and the leadership that must be provided is making the tough decisions to strengthen the foundation of the city. Relying on non-recurring revenue just to throw money at a problem to try to get re-elected, and that's what he's doing. He's trying to buy votes. Let's be honest about it.
Whoever the next mayor is, if it's you or somebody else, when they come in 2020, it'll be 8 years since Metro's had a property tax increase. Based on what you're saying, can the voters pretty well expect, if you're mayor, there'll be a property tax increase requested next spring?
Well, we're going to have to look at it. The property tax relief as we move forward must be a last resort. You know, I support it this year because that's where we found ourselves at that moment in time. But moving forward, when I'm elected mayor, I'll have a year to look for the efficiencies that can be made in Metro government. I'll look to see if there's additional revenues that can be collected elsewhere, and I'll see if we can redirect any existing revenues to make these changes and address these big challenges facing Nashville families. But at the end of the day, if a property tax rate adjustment is necessary, then we have to elect a mayor who's willing to make a tough decision. This isn't about getting reelected. This isn't about doing what's politically safe or convenient. This is about doing what is necessary to strengthen the foundation of this city. We have one of the lowest tax rates in the state. Now, all these other candidates against whom I'm running, they're not being honest with you. If they're telling you there is not going to be a tax rate increase at all during their next term, they are not being honest with the people in Nashville. And if I'm the only one that's willing to step up and say, do the math and look at what is realistic to really address the biggest challenges facing our families, if that is necessary at the end of the day, then yes, you will see that. But it'll be a last resort.
John Ray Clemmons, our guest. He's a state representative, also a candidate for mayor in the August 1st election. Back to continue our conversation after this break. Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest this week is John Ray Clemmons. He's a state representative and a candidate for mayor in the August 1st election. John Ray, you've received union support from just about all the private and the public-related unions, except for the Fraternal Order of Police. Why aren't they supporting you? Do they think they're supporting John Cooper? Do they think he has a better chance to get into a runoff against Mayor Briley?
Well, I'm not going to, speculate as to how they made their decision. I was an early supporter of the Community Oversight Board, and I'm the only candidate in this race who supported it from the beginning, so that might have something to do with it.
Affordable housing was a big issue 4 years ago. It remains to be a big issue today. What's Nashville not getting right about it? Because it's been on the public agenda for a long time, but not much seems to be getting done.
Well, that's because the current mayor said it's not a crisis. It is a full-scale crisis. We have a 19,000 unit shortage for households making $35,000 or less a year. And by 2025, we're going to have a 31,000 unit shortage.
And your plan is to correct that?
Oh, absolutely. It's
How?
making it a priority. So first we start by creating a dedicated revenue stream for the Barnes Fund for Affordable Housing. I've spoken with people all across this county who are actually working on this issue. Rusty Lawrence, Kay Bowers, and others. Each of them will tell you, for the Barnes Fund to be remotely effective, you need at least $50 million a year of dedicated revenue on which people can rely who want to develop affordable housing. We need to be able to leverage that equity with private investment to build affordable housing.
And that funding source comes from what? The taxpayers were going to put that in for transit, but they rejected that idea. So what kind of fund would this be on a permanent basis that would fund affordable housing?
Well, it's finding the resources necessary to put it into the fund. That's what we need to get in there. Roll up our sleeves.
Property tax increase?
Well, if whatever's necessary at the end of the day to address these big challenges, we continue to give it away property tax based to every corporation that wants to move to this city. We are a great city. It's time we start acting like one. Why are we giving away our property tax base, the chief funding source for our public schools and things we can be using to develop affordable housing? You know, we're still negotiating as if it's the 1980s and we need to beg people to come to Nashville. People want to be in Nashville, and if they're looking at moving to a city, the number one variable they look at is the quality of the public education system. So why are we giving away the chief funding source for our public schools to companies who are moving here in reliance on the quality of our public schools?
You're beginning for the first time, I think, this week, your on-air TV and cable TV advertising. What's your strategy for that? It's going to be difficult at this point to compete with John Cooper and with Mayor Briley because they've been on the air for several weeks.
Oh, well, we've outworked them. I've been out at this campaign since January 2nd. You know, John Cooper wavered back and forth as to whether or not he even wanted to be mayor. David Briley has just been throwing stuff up on the wall to see what sticks. We have been out there across this entire county building up a strong grassroots organization. And it is stronger than any other candidate in this race because we're doing the real work. I've outworked every single one of them. And it's built on what we're hearing in people's homes, and that's our message. And so, yes, we're on TV. We had a digital ad out about a month and a half ago. So we've been at this for a while. But people in Nashville are just now tuning in. We just now got past the 4th of July holiday. So John Cooper can spend all the money he wants. David Briley can try to just throw anything up on the wall to see what sticks. But we're talking about the issues that matter to the Nashville families and working families across this city. We're right there. We're on the air. We're going to stay there, and we're going to continue to mobilize our grassroots organization.
The budget that the city's operating under right now and the new mayor will inherit came in by default. The council didn't come up with its own alternative to the mayor's plan, and when they didn't do that, the mayor's went in automatically. There's about $40 million in revenue in that's generated either from privatizing the private parking, the downtown parking system meters, or also selling the downtown energy system. If you're mayor and you've got a $40 million shortage, where are you going to find that in the budget when you get in to be mayor?
Well, that's yet another problem that the current mayor is leaving behind. That is fiscally irresponsible to pass a budget or to allow a budget to pass that has a $40 million hole in it. You know, instead of making tough decisions to put this city on a sound fiscal footing, the council didn't address it either. Well, and yeah, John Cooper's a member of the council. Why didn't he propose an alternative budget? Several of them proposed alternative budgets that still relied on that revenue. That's disappointing. At least the Bertram-Mendez budget proposed new revenues, and that's one of the reasons I support it. You know, this privatized public parking deal is a raw deal for Nashville. You know, relying on that and passing a budget based on a privatized public parking deal that Metro Council members haven't even seen yet.
You're the only candidate in the race that supports another countywide referendum on transit. Now, the one that came up in May of last year was pretty soundly defeated by voters. How will your plan be different, and how will you convince voters to vote yes this time instead of no?
My plan will be run out of the mayor's office, which hasn't been done to this time, and our plan will reflect what we're hearing in the community. What we have seen with previous plans are kind of ignoring some of the interesting, the real data out there, and also they built plans designed to funnel people solely into downtown. Now, do we need to get people into downtown to work? Absolutely. But we also need to move people throughout our community, in and through the community, in an equitable manner, because you don't just need to get from your home to your work. You need to be able to get from your home to the grocery store. Our seniors across this city whose bus routes are being cut and rely on access rides, they're not getting access to transportation and now they're stuck at home relying on others to help them get to the grocery store or to the bank. What we're going to do is go out into the community and actually sit down and listen. It's what we've been doing this entire campaign. If we don't build a plan around what the people of Nashville need and want, and that plan doesn't reflect what they need and want, then it's going to be hard to sell a plan. And we're asking the people of Nashville to step up and make a hard decision. There's going to have to be additional tax revenues. To get people to buy into it, they need to believe in it.
The sales tax increase that was talked about last time, that's probably the funding source again.
Well, you know, we live in the most regressive taxation system in the country in this state, so our options are limited. But we need to be more mindful. We don't need to tax people's groceries more. We worked hard in the state legislature the past several years. We worked for 4 years. I was up there to cut that grocery sales tax finally, and we got that done. So we don't need to put any more tax on that, but we're going to have to look for any and all options. Additionally, the surrounding counties are going to have to pay their fair share, because we're not the only ones putting burdens on our infrastructure. Surrounding counties, my home county, Wilson County, Williamson County, Sumner, all coming into Nashville. Those counties need to step up and pay their fair share.
John Ray Clemmons is our guest. He's a state representative and a candidate for mayor in the August 1st election. Back for more conversation with him after this break.